ago, I won the World Series of Poker main event.
Chris Moneymaker is atop the poker world.
I realized every poker player's dream. Tonight, 9 players get the chance to do what I did 10 years ago. Win the main event.
The great part about having the chip lead is I'm able to go in there and have a variety of styles to play. I have more room for trial and error.
So I'm the short stack. What's going to happen most likely is that within the first orbit or two, I'm going to be getting all in. Now, if I double up, I can start putting some chips together. I think I have as good a chance as anybody.
I'm happy to be the underdog and have people feel like I am the amateur. I personally have confidence in my own abilities.
Millions are at stake with this bracelet for the champion. The World Series of Poker main event final table. Someone else's dream gets dealt tonight.
Texas Dolly Brunson, who wrote the book.
He's moving in for the kill.
And there it is. Helmuth wins the championship.
Moneymaker puts his name amongst the greatest players in the game.
Wake me now.
Greg Merson is the main event champion.
Biggest day of my life.
Main event, final table.
Welcome to the 2013 World Series of Poker main event final table telecast presented by Wild Turkey. Tonight, 9 poker players look to take home one of the richest first place prizes in poker history, over $8.3 million. We will bring you the entire final table virtually live from right here inside the Penn and Teller Theater. It quite literally is where the magic happens. Fans and opponents alike will be focused on 36-year-old chip leader J.C. Tran. He's playing for a lot more than he usually plays for. His wife is pregnant with their second child due any day, yet she's here in the building. One player we're going to follow very closely, the short stack, David Benefield, the former online star turned Columbia University student, is focusing on other pursuits in life now. But tonight, it's all about the poker. 2 things make tonight special: the astronomical stakes, over $8 million to the champion, and of course, the atmosphere. Poker so often played at kitchen tables and card rooms. Here in the Penn and Teller Theater, it is a spectacle. The World Series of Poker main event exacts a tremendous toll on its competitors. Tonight, poker's version of a marathon completes its final mile as 9 players seek a top prize of $8.3 million and the gold bracelet. Here with me, as always, my longtime broadcast partner, Norman Chad, and 3-time World Series of Poker bracelet winner, Antonio Esfandiari. Antonio, so many obstacles remain to hit the finish line here tonight. Though chip leader J.C. Tran does seem to have the clearest path, how should he approach this endgame?
Well, Lon, I think it's really important that JC approaches this final table just as if it was any other regular final table. He can't let the fact that it's the World Series of Poker main event final table get in the way of that in any way. He's the chip leader going in, and I think it's really important that he applies as much pressure to his opponents as he can.
Norman, as we know, making the November 9 is a once-in-a-multiple lifetime opportunity. Some people say winning it all is a miracle. Who is going to close the deal tonight?
You want me to make a pick?
That's why we brought you.
Hey, I had the British winning the Revolutionary War. At best, I know next to nothing. I do know this. In the November 9 era, only one chip leader has taken home the title, Jonathan Duhamel. So considering that, J.C. Tran's an underdog to win it all. The real underdog, of course, is short stack David Benefield. But he's such a smart guy, an Ivy Leaguer. I think he's going to figure out a way of going from the fewest chips to all the chips. And if he does that, sure, this guy's the voice of poker, and this guy's the magician, but that would make me a genius.
When you talk to the players, it's clear that tonight is certainly the biggest poker night of their lives, and one of the biggest nights of their lives, period.
I don't feel a lot of pressure going in, and I've been playing poker for a long time, and this is something I think I'm very good at. So I'm going to go in with a lot of confidence and hope to play well.
Right now, there's a lot of mixed emotion going on. I'll say the major one is excitement. I'm really, really excited, but from like time to time, sometimes I don't even realize what that is finally going to be played. It was such a long time that you forgot that you're in it. So I try to be really excited and be in it, and it's for real.
I never would imagine or even dreamt of having the chip lead coming into the final table. You know, one of my dreams was to make the final table. And coming in with the chip lead is just like, wow.
We have plenty of time to talk numbers, but here are a few to get you started. The starting chip count, J.C. Tran with 20% of the chips in play. Former junior chess champion Amir Lehavat in second place. Michiel Brummelhuis in seventh place, looking to become the first ever main event champion from the Netherlands. The other member of our broadcast team down on the floor, Kara Scott, right now with our November 9 chip leader, J.C. Tran.
JC, you've had 3 months to think about this, to plan and to dream, and now it's finally here. Can you help us understand what this moment, this one particular moment, is like for you?
It's amazing. I mean, this is all poker players' dream, and I'm living it right now.
Well, the wait is finally over. It's time to go over to the World Series of Poker Tournament Director, Jack Effel, for the Shuffle Up and Deal.
Good evening. Tonight's play will begin with 42 minutes and 25 seconds remaining in level 5. The button is in seat 6. The blinds are 200,000, 400,000 with a 50,000 ante. Now for tonight's Shuffle Up and Deal, please welcome the 2012 World Series of Poker main event champion, Greg Merson.
Thanks, Jack. It's truly an honor to be here on behalf of the World Series of Poker on the most special night of the year for our game. Without further ado, dealer, shuffle up and deal.
We are ready to go. We resume with about 42 minutes left in the level at 200,000, 400,000, 50,000 chips ante. Our final 9 players.
So confused.
Before Tuesday's over, we will have our new world champion. It was nearly 4 months ago. The field of 63-52 was cut to 9. Right now, the average chip count, 52 big blinds. Maybe the man overmatched. If you look at the scoreboard, Norman is Jay Farber, the VIP host here, but he's got a big stack to tangle with these top pros.
He's the truest amateur here, as you mentioned, a VIP host, and he's got a VIP roster of poker pros who have been helping him.
Antonio, how do you see the early hands play out here?
Well, I think that JC is really going to step up the game right away and let everybody know who table captain is. He's got a great draw with the shorter stacks on his left and the bigger stacks on his right. He's the chip leader. He's the most experienced player. So I suspect he'll come out firing when the opportunity seizes.
That will be interesting to watch. Benefield on the direct left of J.C. Tran. Right now, the second biggest stack, that man, Amir Lehavat, with a raise to 850,000. And you see at the top of the screen something new for us this year. All the players' chip counts and the action you see in yellow that Amir has entered the hand.
And you could tell Mark Etienne didn't like folding there. He's got the button. It's the first hand of the tournament. And so coming out with a 3-bet there is very strong. It's kind of like laying down the groundwork. Listen, you're not going to steal the button from me. But
Benefield lays down his big blind, and some of the precious chips he had go to Lehavat, who's raising with 7-5 suited.
I mean, I think that's pretty standard. You have suited connectors that have a lot of potential. I actually have, I love 7-5.
Yeah.
Don't know if you can remember or not.
All right, let's get a closer look at this year's November Niners.
Sylvain Lansley from Toulon, France.
Michiel Brummelhuis from Amsterdam, Holland.
Thank you.
Mark Newhouse, Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
Brian Reese, Waterford, Michigan.
Amir Lehavat, Western Florida.
Mark-Etienne McLaughlin, Brossard, Quebec.
J.C. Tran, Sacramento, California.
David Benefield, Fort Worth, Texas.
Jay Farber from Santa Barbara, California.
So hand number 2 of this championship table. Reese has folded. Lehavat has the action.
I am stoked, Lon.
You are stoked.
8.3 million for the winner before taxes. It's a pretty darn good deal.
The French Canadian Mark-Etienne McLaughlin with a raise to 850. There's our chip leader, J.C. Tran.
Again, this is very interesting because it's the second hand, and Mark-Etienne McLaughlin also wants to let the table know that he will not be run over. As we've seen him play up to this final table, he's played very aggressive and very good. He's got the chip leader right on his left with the button, and so it wouldn't surprise me to see JC put in a 3-bet here.
What a murderer's row here with Leavitt second in chips, McLaughlin third in chips, and JC Tran first in chips, and then that bleeds into David Benefield, the short stack. A re-raise we hear from JC Tran.
2.15.
And the dealer says 2.15 million.
Yeah.
So now back to McLaughlin, the original raiser. The tone being set early here.
Yes, that is correct. And JC is just, he's very good at reading situations. And he's more of a feel player than a math player, I think. And so he understands that Marc-Etienne McLaughlin is going to be opening lots of pots, and he just kind of wants to set the tone right away. I like this. I like it a lot. I mean, even if JC has a hand like Jack 10 offsuit, I love this play. You kind of want to let the person know who is going to run chip. But Marc-Etienne McLaughlin doesn't like to be pushed around, and he doesn't fold to 3-bets very easily. So I think at a minimum we'll see a call.
McLaughlin, a business mogul in the making, whether it be real estate, the stock market, or exporting maple syrup from Quebec. He's a money-making machine, this poker enthusiast. Does not call himself a full-time poker pro, but now he's putting some big chips together, it looks like.
Right, and historically, we've seen him play. He hasn't done this and folded, so I think that those chips are probably going to go forward.
And what you're seeing at the top of the screen, of course, the players who are in the hand in yellow, and their starting stacks at the beginning of the hand. A re-raise back at you, Mr. Tran, to 5.4 million. Everyone I've talked to, and you were one of them, Antonio, says JC does not want to get mixed up early in a big hand.
No, I think that JC wants to play smaller pots. He wants to see a lot more flops and go in that direction. But I think that 3-betting early on to kind of set the tone is very important. But now obviously he's got himself in a very tricky spot. You know, calling 5.4 million here is a decent amount of his stack. So I don't.
Heather Tran, JC's wife, due in just a matter of days. They've got a private jet standing by in case they need to whisk her back to Sacramento.
5.4.
This is when you check to make sure you have what you thought you had.
You usually do.
Usually, they never change. So I think it's going to be pretty tough to JC to, if he puts in a raise here, this would be the 5th bet, and so therefore we call that a 5-bet. I don't see JC doing a 5-bet here without a real hand.
History between these two comes into play. Anytime you get in this type of situation, you got big stack, big stack, big stack. A key moment early here at the championship table. Hand number 2 between the chip leader and the number 3 stack.
He wants to do it, but I think he's going to end up folding. I don't see confidence in JC's hand right now.
During our virtually live broadcast, you will see the cards at the end of the hand. We cannot show them during the process of the hand.
Yeah, he's gone. He's folding.
And JC does give it up. McLaughlin had it with the 2 red aces.
Well, see, King 7 of spades isn't really a hand you can just call with. And so a lot of times you just raise and hope that your opponent gives it up. But unfortunate for JC, McLaughlin had pocket aces there.
That'll ease some nerves, Norman.
On a big early statement for Marc-Etienne. 30th at the 09 main event, 86th in 2011, and now the top 9 finish.
Wow, what a good spot to pick up aces.
Is there a bad one?
No, there isn't. But
all right, so a lot of chips in play. Almost 191 million. These are the denominations. The big one, of course, the sand-colored beige chip's worth $250,000. The lavender chip worth $100,000. The smallest chip in play, you see $25,000. And they've got another chip waiting in the wings to come into play, $500,000 chip. So action on JC Tran, and he'll give it up, stinging a little bit, but a good fold, obviously, as you saw. short stack David Benefield. Big stack, short stack remain the same. JC's still the chip leader with $35.5 million.
Benefield has a little less than $6 million, and it's over $1 million in orbit. And so I don't see him
He says
playing
all in.
super tight. Yeah, this doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, if he has any ace in his hand, if he has any big two-face cards, any pair, I think he's making this move. Even hands like Queen Jack or Jack Queen, I wouldn't be surprised to see this move.
There's Jay Farber. Farber gives it up. He sits with a big stack. Sylvain Loosely, the Frenchman, folds. Benefield did it with a suited small ace.
Yeah, and that's absolutely correct. I mean, it's unlikely that his two opponents in the blinds wake up with a better hand. And if they do, well, he's got outs.
Picked up over 1 million chips, as you mentioned, without a call.
Benefield had talked about he would move in the first or second orbit, but he also talks about that he does play the short stack a little more non-traditionally than most, Antonio. Once in a while, he says he will limp. He will just defend his big blind, and other people generally won't do that when they only have 15 big blinds left.
Right. Usually when you have less than 20 big blinds, it's kind of like a shove all in kind of game. And I actually played with him at the main event, WSOP Europe this year, and he was a short stack on my table, and he was incredibly patient. I was very impressed by how much patience he had, actually.
The World Series of Poker main event prize pool totaled $59.7 million, but we still have almost $30 million to hand out here among these players that remain. We're #1 payday for our world champion, over $8.3 million. JC Tran with a raise to $850. The blinds at $200,000, $400,000, as you see at the top of the screen with a $50,000 chip ante. Barber gives up his button. Now there is Sylvain Loosely. Doesn't play a lot of live events, certainly not a lot of live tournaments, mostly an online star. He's won over $1 million. He folds. Michiel Brummelhouse, a new father from the Netherlands, folds.
Pick up 1 million chips. That's great.
So we have had some early fireworks here in Las Vegas at the Penn and Teller Theater, just getting underway. We're going to crown a new world champion in the next couple of days. Come on back to Las Vegas. The 2013 World Series of Poker is presented by Wild Turkey, bottled but never tamed. Please drink responsibly. And in part by WSOP Full House Pro on Xbox 360. Download poker's most authentic experience. And the WSOP online store, Dealt by Lids.
We're here at STK at Cosmo, 24 hours away. You know, having all my friends and family here, you know, it means a lot to me. It's just room in general. It's a great group of people. These are the people that's been there for me. I owe them a lot, and I want to succeed in this really badly just for them, and we'll bring this one home.
That is where chip leader JC Tran was 24 hours ago. We'll be taking a closer look at where all of our November Niners were just 24 hours ago. I talked with defending champion Greg Merson, Norman. He said the first 45 minutes of his championship table last year were some of the most nerve-wracking moments of his life. I imagine probably a similar sentiment among these 9.
Well, it's tough to adjust. It's always tough to adjust to be on the big stage under the TV lights, and then when it's the November 9, where everything's magnified, I think there is a period of usually feeling out, and you just got to get comfortable.
Antonio, when you won the big one for one drop last year, when you sat down at that table, knowing what was at stake, is it a moment unlike anything you've ever felt?
Yes. I mean, there's a lot of pressure, but you really just have to treat it as if it's another tournament. I mean, at the end of the day, you get 2 cards and your opponent gets 2 cards. So you got to take yourself out of that mind frame, hey, there's so much at stake here, because that really could affect how you play.
The air conditioning up a little bit here in the Penn and Teller Theater, loosely with the hoodie, but he does fold. Now, Michiel Brummelhouse trying to become the first main event champion from the Netherlands. He's the first one from that country to be at a main event final table. He folds over to Mark Newhouse, who says all in. He was lucky to make this championship table, and here he is, McLaughlin, with an immediate call. McLaughlin with kings, Newhouse at risk with queens.
And just horrendous luck for Mark Newhouse on a short stack. Pocket queens, and he runs into pocket kings.
Wow, that's brutal. Wait for 3 months, get it all in with 2 queens. I mean, talk about McLaughlin. He's gotten kings and aces in the first couple of hands. That's quite incredible.
The players have all been paid 9th place money. They got that back in July when they exited the Amazon room at Newhouse gets nothing if he loses this hand, and he is well on his way to doing just that. Mark McLaughlin, originally from Chapel Hill, living in Los Angeles, needs a queen, and he got it!
Wow. Wow.
What a surge for Mark Newhouse. And now in great shape to double up to a huge stack.
McLaughlin has picked up kings, he's picked up aces, but the kings may take a chunk of his stack here. Turn card. 10 of clubs, and so it comes down to the river. McLaughlin needs it to get us to 8-handed. Newhouse staring at almost 15 million chips if he can avoid danger here on the river.
A king and a king only knocks out Mark Newhouse.
The river is the 5 of clubs, and Mark Newhouse got it in bad, comes out good.
And now he can play some poker. He goes over to his rail, including Chino Reen. Mark now with about 35 big blinds, so he doesn't have to be in pushing mode.
JC Tran is very happy about that outcome, as a matter of fact. Even though one player doesn't bust, it now puts a very aggressive player with less chips.
7.1 million.
So Newhouse with 14.8, McLaughlin cut down to 22.3. That's just a cooler. And that's the way Newhouse ran on day 7. Boy, he was up and down. He had the chip lead on day 7 at one point. He was all in with 5 big blinds at another point, and he is all over the map. McLaughlin takes it in stride. We're just in hand number 6, and I'm worn out, guys.
Now, as you mentioned, Antonio, Mark McLaughlin picked up 2 big hands to start. Pocket aces were good. Didn't even have to see a flop, but pocket kings do not hold up.
And you see by the leaderboard at the top, Mark Newhouse has moved up a spot. He came in 8th place, now passes Brummelhouse. Newhouse sitting 14.8 million in 7th.
I'll need extra help. I gotta tell you guys, you know, I said I'm stoked, and this is poker's biggest stage.
I know where he's right.
But again, they are dressed for a backyard barbecue at Uncle Chuck's house. When are we going to change this? It would be nice to see just a little more sartorial splendor at poker's biggest stage.
By the way, I agree with you, but I understand both sides, because when you're playing poker, you really want to be comfortable, especially when you're playing for so much at
That's
stake.
why they have tailors.
Yeah, but the suit thing, you know, button-up shirts,
They used
it's
to
not
be
that
able to do it.
comfortable.
It's
They used to
mental.
do it.
It's not that comfortable.
You know, Poker Hall of Famer Crandall Addington, he played always with a jacket, a tie, and a Stetson. Best dressed guy you ever see. He was comfortable. And he made the main event top 10 like at least 5 or 6 times.
Dressed or main event finishing?
Both.
Both.
Oh, he's #1 for dressed.
Tran with a opening raise to 850,000. There is Ryan Reese, the Beast.
The youngest player at this final table at 23.
So this is interesting because JC opened in relatively early position, and Reese called out of the small blind. So certainly he has a hand that's worth seeing a flop with.
Queen Jack 9 is the flop. Tran and Reese.
Playing a pot out of position against a chip leader is never fun, no matter what you're holding.
Reese being out of position, meaning he is the first one to act after the flop, turn, and river. And Reese checks it. You see again, Tran and Reese highlighted in yellow at the top of your screen, indicating they are the ones involved in this hand.
And so the trend these days in poker is when you're the pre-flop raiser, you almost always bet the flop when it's checked to you. That's called a C-bet continuation bet. And so that's pretty standard that we're going to see Reese check the flop and JC Tran continue with a bet.
A cool 1 million from the chip leader JC Tran and a call from Reese.
So there's a lot of hands that Reese could have called in the small blind that connect with that flop. Hands like King Queen, you know, Ace Jack, maybe even Ace Queen. He didn't want to re-raise and play big pot out of position.
Board paired on the turn.
Any hand with a 10 in it, I think for sure he's going to call the flop. And so given that Reese called the flop, the queen has to worry JC just a little bit.
9 of diamonds pairs the board again.
So when JC checks back the turn, it's clear that he doesn't have a queen in his hand. I think that with ace queen or king queen, for sure he's going to bet. So I think that if Reese has a hand, he could have ace jack, king jack.
Check, check. Let's see him.
Ace-jack.
Ace-jack. So Reese flops top pair, top kicker. And with the queens and jacks and an ace kicker, he will take that down with the middle pair.
And you can see JC is opening with ace-deuce offsuit. And so, yeah, it's a little loose, but he's got all the chips, so I think he can get away with that.
So Ryan Reese will take that pot down. Reese up to over 28 million. Now let's take a look at the Wild Turkey final table payouts. It goes up steeply and quickly. 8th place worth 944,000. Then 7th on up. Hey, you're a millionaire. 5.1 million for 2nd and a $3.2 million jump to the top winner tonight, over 8.3 million. And Ryan Reese now living here in Las Vegas via Michigan. Big Detroit sports fan.
Nice.
Benefield not shoving, opening with a raise to 800,000.
And how about that type of play from him? Again, he's in early position with the shortest stack, and he just makes a min raise.
I mean, look, sometimes if you have a monster, you don't want to take away the opportunity for someone to try and 3-bet you. And so I think there's definitely some hands where it's completely fine to just open instead of shoving it. I usually like to open for raises more than just shoving it, even when I have less than 20 big blinds.
Action on Mark Newhouse. Flush with chips after his double up. His underdog queens flopping a set.
Fair to say he used his one time at this final table so far.
And there's a raise, putting pressure on the short stack to Benefield. 1.8 million is the total. Amir Lehavat, Israeli-born, has dual citizenship, the U.S. and Israel, and you'll see the Israeli flag next to his name on the graphic.
Former engineer, and he would be the first Israeli-born winner of the main event.
He just looks like he knows what he's doing. He looks sharp. He just got it all figured out. I would not want to be bluffing into that guy.
Amir Lehavat, a quiet competitor, but the players who know him know he cannot fly under the radar. He is very talented, a bracelet winner.
The only bracelet winner at the table other than J.C. Tran.
So I think for him to put a raise here, his minimum holding is ace-queen. Probably not even ace-queen. I mean, I can't imagine he would put in a raise here without ace-king or better.
Plus,
Queens, jacks.
He's thinking about Benefield possible shove behind him, right?
Right. I mean, this is what you call a cold 4-bet. It's when you don't really have any involvement in the pot and you put in the fourth bet.
4.4. And when that usually
strong
means holding?
You have a hand, but sometimes, of course, you can do that to, you know, without a strong holding and making it look like you have a strong holding. So Benefield knows he's up against the real hand.
Benefield gets out of the way, as does Newhouse. And it is pocket kings for Lehavat. It is Newhouse with the ace-queen.
Right, and Newhouse was ready to go with ace-queen against Benefield all day. He was never going to fold ace-queen, but he knows there's no way that Lehavat is doing that without a real hand.
So fireworks continue here at this championship table. A fold from Newhouse, but he's got the chips to fold now, because he got it all in bad with his pocket queens, but still managed to double up. It's the biggest night of poker's year. The championship table of the World Series of Poker main event coming your way from the Penn and Teller Theater from the Rio. Let's go down to Kara Scott right now for a report from the floor.
J.C. Tran told me that he was hoping that this final table would start out slowly so he could use his big chip stack to really put pressure on his opponents who might be worried about going out in 9th place, and that is not what we have seen here. Now, David Benefield, on the other hand, the short stack, he thought that the small stacks should be getting their chips in the middle as much as possible right now, trying to build up a big stack, especially if some of those middling stacks look like they might be putting some value on moving up the pay jumps. I think we can continue to see sparks flying.
Antonio, you talk about what happens early in a situation like this, but we're seeing big hands flying around the table, and then everything else goes out the window.
Right, that usually changes everything, because we both know it's very hard to make hands in hold'em, especially starting hands. And so this is coming out just firing. Kings, aces. And by the way, Newhouse mucked the ace-queen so fast. I mean, you got to give him a little bit of credit, even though I think it's an absolute easy instant fold.
Benefield will fold. Tran still leads, as you see at the top of your screen, with 34.5 million chips. Sylvain Loosely from France lives in London right now. He gets out of the way. Brummelhouse folds to that man, Mark Newhouse. Cash game grinder from LA. He's got a huge WPT win under his belt. And he's going to raise it up to 800,000. That's a minimum raise. The big blind at 400,000 right now. Lehevat folds to McLaughlin. The tattoo artist who does not have a tattoo, and Jay Farber tells me actually that it's not uncommon.
Yeah, I just took it. No, it's ridiculous. I mean, Farber's got a business degree and he's covered in tattoos, and the tattoo artist is clean as a whistle. It makes no sense.
A call from McLaughlin in the big blind. Heads up, Newhouse and McLaughlin.
McLaughlin's range is all over. I mean, he was getting a pretty good price just to see a flop, even though he has to take it out of position. But he understands that Newhouse could be opening with a wide range of hands. And so I'm not surprised to see him call. He likes to see flops.
Flop is Jack, 7-10, 2 spades. It goes check, check. Another spade, 9.
If Newhouse had absolutely nothing, he'd probably take a stab at the flop. So by him checking behind tells me that he probably caught a little piece of that flop. Maybe has an ace-high hand and is just hoping to be able to check it down.
A lot could happen with that board.
Right. I think he connected on some level on the flop in order for him to check it back. Perhaps a 10 in his hand, maybe a 7 in his hand.
McLaughlin will bet it when that third spade falls. Flushes and straight flushes possibility out there. $1.2 million from McLaughlin, $1.2 million from Newhouse. River card, 5 of diamonds.
That changed nothing.
Kind of a letdown, wasn't it, Norman?
I was looking forward for another big card.
So if McLaughlin bets again, he's definitely representing either an 8 or a flush. So based on what he does, we can definitely get more information about his hand.
You gotta wonder mentally where McLaughlin is right now. He started in 3rd position and he has slipped to 5th. Newhouse moved up a notch.
Right. And he should have been chip leader, which is, you know, now he's up against the person that took that away from him.
McLaughlin's kings losing to the queens of Newhouse in that earlier big confrontation. $2 million from Mark-Etienne McLaughlin. Now on this man, Mark Newhouse.
And certainly McLaughlin has gone back and watched the videos, and we've seen Newhouse make some pretty big laydowns in the past. Okay, so his body demeanor tells me that he for sure doesn't have a straight or a flush. Now he's just contemplating whether or not he should call with his hand. I think he probably has, he could even have a 2-pair hand, but it doesn't really matter if he has a 2-pair hand or, you know, just top pair, because his opponent either has the straight or the flush or is bluffing.
What do you see McLaughlin? McLaughlin bet the
McLaughlin
third spade.
Could easily have an 8 in his hand. You know, and he played, he's got 2 cards in the big blind for a min raise. I think that any hand, 8-7, 8-9, 8-10, 8-6, he's going to take a flop. So this is where, you know, you really can get a good feel for your opponent when you're next to him. You can just kind of pick up on some sort of an energy. This is where I would clearly try and talk to my opponent and get something out of him.
Newhouse has become a regular at the main event. This is his 2nd cash in the big one, as they have called it through the years.
He is not happy about his hand. I think he flopped just a pair and checked it back, hoping to keep the pot small.
Mark-Etienne McLaughlin had other ideas, and there's the call. McLaughlin with the queen 10, and I'm sorry, McLaughlin with the set of 5s, and he got there on the river. Newhouse's queen, no good.
And you got a feel for Newhouse on that one. I mean, you call the type of hand he had to determine.
Right. Now, so here's the thing. So if the river came a deuce, you know, is McLaughlin going to shut down, or is he going to keep firing again? So the river saved him, but had it come a deuce, is McLaughlin firing again? And so therefore, I think Newhouse played his hand perfectly. He doesn't want to put himself in a position to get check raised on that flop, or especially on the turn. He can't raise. And so, you know, what would have happened had a deuce come? So theoretically, if you know McLaughlin is going to bet even if a deuce had come, it's the right call. But at that moment, it really gets down to the energy that you pick up off your opponent.
Mark Etienne picking up some big hands in the early going. This hand number 9.
His third pocket pair. Then I stand corrected. I said the 5 of diamonds meant absolutely nothing on the river, changed nothing, and once again, I am wrong.
So McLaughlin up to 4th. Newhouse back to where he started in 8th place. Jay Farber will get involved. Opening raise to 850,000. Newhouse will sit this one out.
Right, leading up to the final table, we saw Farber play a very solid ABC style of poker, and he knows that everyone knows that. He's also getting some coaching from some great players, and so I wouldn't be surprised to see him mix it up a little bit.
He's gotten coaching from 2 recent November 9ers, Ben Lamb and Jesse Sylvia, who are much more active than we've seen Jay Farber earlier in this main event.
Pulled it around to J.C. Tran. Still the chip leader, but just barely over Amir Leavat. And Tran will make the call.
Right, and Tran also knows that if the flop misses Farber, he has a very good chance of taking the pot away from him. So this is actually probably a pretty good flop for JC, because it's more likely that Farber's in there with 2 big cards or something like that.
And the old adage is that you get a pro against a non-pro, as Farber is, and JC one of the best pros. You want to get post-flop. The pro's going to outplay the people more often than not.
That is true. But, you know, it's not a fun spot to be out of position, but...
Right. A check from Tran, a bet from Farber. 1,100,000. This is where JC's read has to come into play. This is his strength.
His read and also his cards. You know, if he has 10 jack offsuit, he's out of position against a pre-flop raiser. There's really not much you can do there.
Well, Tran had the best of it with ace high. Farber wins it with king high. So to the victor go the spoils. Mark Etienne McLaughlin right now sitting in 4th place with 26.6 million. As we mentioned, poker's just a hobby, a nice hobby that's paying pretty well. He has some main event success, and in his cheering section tonight is the 2010 main event champ Jonathan Duhamel, though you may not recognize him even if we show it to him. He's covered in green, he's got glasses on, shamrocks hanging around every part of him.
Yeah, Mark Etienne's business card should read businessman / entrepreneur / tattoo artist with no tattoos / main event specialist. It's amazing his success the last 5 years in this main event.
Mark Newhouse folds to Ryan Reese. And Ryan Reese, 850,000. From the youngest at this table, as you mentioned, Norman, 23 years old, had a birthday in June. Boy.
Active Mark Etienne, he can't get away from his hands.
Reese, I think, drew the worst seat by far. I mean, he has 3 big stacks and a couple active players right on his left. That is not what you want at the main event of the final table.
McLaughlin, as you see, looking behind him, J.C. Tran gets rid of his hand. Benefit still the short stack, 5.5 million.
So Benefield is pretty sure that McLaughlin doesn't have a super big hand. He also knows that Reese's opening could be pretty light. And so if he has anything remotely looking good in his 2 cards, this would be a pretty good spot to probably ship it. Or see a flop.
Even a late hesitation with that. We'll have 3 players. Benefield the short stack. Reese McLaughlin sitting 3 and 4.
He's getting a very good price to see a flop. He's only got to put another 4,000 in there.
A couple of 5s and a 4. Benefield first to act. Checks.
And we're going to see this a lot throughout the course of the night, where the original raiser will be checked to on the flop. And of course, he'll follow through with a continuation bet.
And that's what Reese does. 1.2 million. And if Benefield's playing any face cards or anything, and that's the worst flop in the world you want to see.
Right. But if he had a hand like 6-7, even a hand like 6-8 or something like that.
Is he doing that with a short stack there?
I wouldn't be surprised if he called with 6-7.
Well, McLaughlin now.
Especially suited.
And everyone knows he's got queens or kings, I guess, McLaughlin. And Mark kind of stuck in the middle, knowing the short stack is behind him, and that's a call. And Benefield check folds. We'll see the cards of the players who were in the hand when the hand's over. So Benefield is out of the equation right now. Another 5.
There's a lot of hands that McLaughlin would call on the flop with, just because it puts his opponent on the defense. So given that he knows it's standard for Reese to raise pre-flop, bet on the flop, well, if he gets called, now that changes the dynamics of the hand. That doesn't slow Reese down at all. So we'll pick up a lot more information on the turn.
Yeah, in this spot, I would have liked the calling hand on the flop more than the betting hand. But Reese leading out again.
Right, so Reese's story is basically, I have an overpair, because he raised pre-flop, he bet the flop, he's now betting the turn. He's not really worried about a 5. If McLaughlin had a 5, he probably would have heard about it on the flop, but that's not for certain. I think there's a good chance McLaughlin was calling just to see what Reese would do on the turn with maybe some sort of outs. Even a hand like ace-jack or ace-10, I think that McLaughlin would call the flop. So we'll see what happens on the turn.
Frank Reese, Ryan's father, saw him in a feature earlier on. And the 2 million chips from Reese gets McLaughlin to fold. And Reese with the full boat, 5's full of 8s. McLaughlin with a lesser boat with a nice fold.
Wow, that's pretty impressive for him to fold a boat there. I think I for sure would have called one more street.
Well, Ryan Reese picking up chips. He is the youngest here, but certainly not underconfident coming in here.
Jeff, is there a block here somewhere?
I guarantee I'm going to win the main event because I'm better than everybody else at the final table.
And there's a break after this other?
Okay.
Did he really just say that? Did he go to the school of Phil Humming? I mean,
there's a guarantee in there.
There's a way to say you're the best. There's a way to think you're the best. I'm just going to bite my lip on this one, guys.
He does believe he's the best. He has said it a number of times, and the youngest here, and he's actually younger than when Phil Hellmuth won the main event title in '89.
So Reese has pushed his way into 3rd position from his starting position of 5th, and he's only 2 million behind our chip leader, who is right now Amir Lehavat. J.C. Tran has dropped into 2nd place right now. The blinds take such a toll on a player, no matter whether you're a big stack or a medium, short stack.
I mean, every orbit is 1,050,000 in chips, so that really does add up. And I actually like that there's 4 or 5 guys with an equal big stack. It kind of makes it a more interesting dynamic.
Tran with the button, and a button raise to 850. Benefield gives it up.
It almost hurts Benefield to fold because he knows that JC could have any 2 cards there. His range is wide open.
Absolutely, especially with the short stack Benefield there. So the blinds give it up, and Tran will take it from the button. JC Tran knows any chips are good chips, and it is Jack 10 for JC. Barber folding 7-6. So even though Tran had the best hand, it's not a premium hand, but late position on the button, it's a good raise. And JC back in the chip lead right now.
It's not just good, I think it's mandatory. I don't think there's a single great player that with a big stack wouldn't raise the button to Jack 10.
The Penn and Teller Theater is packed. Each player has their own special fans with them on the stage, and then hundreds more out in the seats. Family and friends surrounding them for their very special night, the most special night of their poker career.
And David Benefield running out of time. He's down to 11 big blinds. He'll be on the button in this hand.
Yep, all in, no action before him. So picking up the blinds and antes, a good thing for David. Barber folds the small. Sylvain Loosely has been quiet so far here in the 12th hand of this championship table.
Is that a scarf or a necktie?
Yep.
It doubles as both.
So it looks like he's really thinking about this one. I don't think there's any Hollywood left to do because Benefield is basically all in for 4.3. So, you know, he probably has a hand like King 9 or maybe even Queen 9, Queen 10. He's thinking about it because he knows that Benefield could be moving in with a pretty wide range. I wouldn't be surprised to see a king hand or a queen.
Benefield at risk with King 9. Loosely hasn't dominated with King Jack. Benefield in big trouble. The short stack could be the first one going out. Not unheard of at this championship table at the main event. A big crowd, a lot of them rooting for David Benefield. His parents, Robert and Lizelle, hoping their stay will not be a short one here at the Penn and Teller Theater, but their son needs to catch something.
We saw Mark Newhouse do it when he ran the tough luck, and now Benefield running the tough luck is going to need to do it.
All right, here's the flop. Benefield looking for help. 2 spades does help.
It's never easy, ladies and gentlemen.
Loosely paired is Jack. But that's irrelevant to Benefield when he sees the 2 spades fall. So we saw Newhouse double up from behind. Benefield trying to do likewise. Jason Kuhn, good friend of Benefield and a coach of his in the offseason. Timoshenko also there, Yevgeny. And there's a spade! A flush for David Benefield. And the hand is over, loosely drawing dead. And the player behind doubles up again.
It's the night of the underdogs, Norman.
2 in a row, Mark Newhouse, all but dead against a bigger pair, and now David Benefield was dominated, but got the flush, and he's back in business.
And that is not good news for the other players. David Benefield did exactly what he had hoped would happen. He says, I gotta go all in. He got it in bad, and just like Mark Newhouse, Benefield got it. He doubles up. Raptors much more of a threat now. Welcome back to the Rio. We are set soon to crown a new world champion, but just 12 hands in, we have seen some monster hands. A big double up from Mark Newhouse with queens against kings, and then we just saw David Benefield dominated, going to his all-in moment, but he turned the flush to double up. We are still 9-handed. David Benefield no longer the short stack. JC Tran still the big stack. And the interesting evening just gets more and more fascinating, Norman.
I got a lot of confidence in David Benefield. In one respect, he reminds me of Jeremy Ausmus from last year, who was the short stack, not as short as David. I had a lot of confidence that Jeremy's going to be able to navigate with the short stack for a while, and he did, and moved up the pay ladder. Benefield also, he's not going to make a lot of bad decisions.
Boy, he was a rock star in the online poker world. The buzz wore off. As you mentioned, a very bright young man. He's challenging himself to be a better, smarter, more informed and connected citizen back at Columbia University, pointing towards a graduate program. He has to make sure he can go back. He's taking the semester off, and he's not sure they're going to let him back into January.
If he shows them $8.3 million, they will let him back into Columbia.
If he builds a wing on Columbia, they'll let him back in. All right, Newhouse and Reese fold, as does Amir Lehavut. The gray sweater there in the middle. The gray T-shirt is Mark-Etienne McLaughlin. McLaughlin chips into the middle, a raise to 850. Folded back to Benefield.
McLaughlin's had 4 pocket pairs in the first 12 hands.
12 hands is all we've played. Benefield not the shortest stack, but still a short stack. 9.4 million, as you see at the top of the screen. In the yellow indicates McLaughlin's in the hand. Benefield's name turns yellow also because he's involved. Jay Farber will fold. Farber, a very solid player. Probably premium hands is all you'll see from him. Sylvan Loose League gets out of the way. And new daddy, McKeel Grimmelhouse, had a son 7 weeks ago. Girlfriend and
by the way,
are here.
Did you notice how he looked at his cards and just instantly put him down and kind of sat up?
Is he satisfied
and
with
looked
that?
at the action? I mean, that's usually a sign of a pretty good hand. There's not much for him to do here. He's never going to call. He's either all in or folding. But that kind of stillness makes me think he has a hand.
There's the
he's all in.
Yeah, he is indeed. For just over 10 million, Mikael Brimmelhaus. Now he's got Benefield covered. Benefield put in 2 million, has 7.4 behind.
And by the way, that was a huge house on Brimmelhaus. He just, Snap was interested, and his body demeanor just entirely shifted.
Now did David pick up on that?
David asking him if he has him covered, and as you mentioned, Brimmelhaus does have Benefield covered.
And the red, as you see at the top of the screen, of course, indicates Brimmelhaus all in. That could change if Benefield calls. That will change if Benefield calls.
Well, if he didn't pick up on the tell, he certainly picked up on the 10 million all in.
I'll take the under.
I'm not sure David wanted to play for all his chips here.
And this is 20% of his stack that he's already put into this pot, and so he's getting pretty good odds. But you know, if he's in big trouble, it's not good.
And if he folds, he's back to the short stack.
Right, but you know, he doesn't want to call and be completely dominated. If he has a hand like ace queen and Brimmelhaus has his ace king, he's in big trouble, and he'd rather fold here.
Yeah, he can fold here and be back to where he started at a little earlier, just under 20 big blinds.
So I think he has a hand that he was going with McLaughlin all day, but against someone that just, you know, wakes up in the big blind and moves all in, I think it's tough. So I actually think he has a hand like ace queen. Ace queen is in for sure. He could even have 2 10s, possibly 2 9s, but I think it's more likely that he has ace queen.
You're talking
about Benefield.
You don't think 9s or 10s are snapped because of the inactivity so far from Brimmelhaus?
Right. Well, Brimmelhaus either has 2 overcards to 9s or a bigger pair than 9s. I mean, if he had 7s or 8s, I don't think he's making this move. But then again, I wouldn't be shocked if he did. But I think that he's probably going to fold 7s or 8s, maybe 9s. So yeah, if Benefield has 10s, I think he's probably going to end up going with it. 9s, just don't know if he'd make it 2 million to McLaughlin's raise with 9s.
David's girlfriend, Lisa Paulson, nearby. What a critical moment for her boyfriend, David Benefield, here, who's tortured by this all-in from Mikael Brimmelhaus.
Just feels like ace queen to me.
Benefield had the most successful off-season, as it were, since making the November 9, winnings of almost 600,000, several places on the globe. Does he want to risk it all right here? 2 very even stacks. A call would mean virtually both players are all in, but Brimmelhaus does have the slightly bigger stack.
And Brimmelhaus definitely has a hand. I mean, we've seen him play up to this point a very unorthodox style, playing all sorts of crazy hands, even as a short stack. But in this particular spot, I'm pretty sure that the tell he gave off was such that.
Wow, a huge fold. Brimmelhaus with the aces. You called it 10s from
nice call,
Benefield.
Both. Again, give Benefield the credit with the pocket 10s, which you might have called with. That was the edge of your calling range.
That's a very, very tough laydown. I mean, Brimmelhaus could for sure have ace king.
Well, Mikael Brimmelhaus will take that pot, picking up aces at a nice time. We mentioned he and his girlfriend, Ann Craft, had a baby. Just 7 weeks ago. 13.5 million for Brimmelhaus now.
And what a big tell that was.
And there's Ann right there, enjoying the moment. Everyone here is inside the Penn and Teller Theater. What an atmosphere. And the atmosphere getting even more tense now as the blinds have been raised to 250,000, 500,000 with a 50,000 chip and $1.2 million in the pot before the cards are dealt. For the first year the bracelets were awarded the World Series of Poker, 1975. They had watches. Watches came out for a year. They said, no, we don't like the watches. Back to the bracelets. Reese with a raise to 1 million from Under the Gun. Under the Gun, the first player to act on the deal.
Yeah, there's no version of Benefield that's just going to call. He's
all in. Yep.
He's got less than 8 or 9 million. He's always going all in fold.
Benefield shoves again. Farber folds, loosely folds. Brimmelhouse out of the way. Newhouse gives it up. Now Reese. So Reese want to take a shot.
A little more, sorry. 7-3 maybe.
Well, Reese has an insta call, so you can pretty much take ace-king or any big pair out of his range. He's getting a count. There's a chance he could have ace-jack or maybe a mid-pocket pair, leaning on the smaller side.
For less than 25% of Reese's stack.
You can see it over there, right? 7.35. Reese wants a cashier at Kmart. Benefield wants a cashier at Target. Huh? Yeah, I don't see any Nordstrom associates at this final table, huh?
David Benefield with, you know, several steps forward, a few steps backward, now trying to get those chips back. His girlfriend once again tortured on the sideline here. And they knew that was going to happen. I mean, David was going to be putting his fans through the ringer here.
Unless you really want me to
it feels like pocket 8s, maybe pocket 7s or ace-jack for Reese.
Reese would have to commit about 20% of his stack to make this call.
I think with ace-queen, he's in there pretty quick.
Yeah. Ryan Reese's girlfriend Tabitha Trask.
Good thing I didn't have kings.
Looks like she knows what her man has. She looked pretty confident about what was happening.
Reese knows he's the best. Does his girlfriend know he's the best? He probably told her.
Ryan Reese does not want to slide backwards here.
Yeah, I think with 8s, he's probably calling a little bit faster. He could have 7s, 6s, or ace-jack.
Yeah, 6 o'clock by Reese's name. That's how long he's been thinking about this.
And by the way, any player at the table has the option to call a clock on him, but I don't see that happening. If someone takes a certain amount of time, you always have that right. But in this particular situation, I don't see it happening at all.
Yevgeny Timoshenko is in Benefield's corner. Can he call the clock from the? No.
The clock should be called on Timoshenko.
Yeah, Reese will lay it down, and boy, a good lay down. Wow.
Ace queen. Wow, they're making some amazing laydowns.
Just very well paid poker in the first dozen or so hands.
That's a very good laydown. I think I would have called and lost a lot of chips there.
So Benefield up to 9.5 million. Newhouse, as you see the switch happen at the top of your screen. The short stack 7.9 million. We are still 9-handed. There has been some fantastic poker being played at the Penn and Teller Theater. More when we come back.